Yeah, apparently James isn't going to introduce us. So hi.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to here. Hi, I'm James with FireSprint and Gene with FireSprint. We're two of the three owners. And thank you. It looks like there's a handful of people that have joined us so far. And so last week we had, was our first, or 2 weeks ago, was our first FireHour that we have done in a while.
Apparently James isn't going to introduce us. So
Sorry,
this is weird.
difficulties.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We got to mute.
All right.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
We're figuring this out. We're amateur radio guys. And so, yeah, we'll figure it. Just kidding.
I wouldn't even call us amateur. What's below amateur?
Yeah. Rookies. Not even rookies. So, but anyways, last or 2 weeks ago was our first one. And I felt like we had really good reach. I think we had like 800 people watch it across Facebook and YouTube. So,
great.
Which is nice. That's always encouraging to see that people want to listen to us. And so, maybe we give some value, hopefully, and teach you a little bit about this. This isn't for selling FireSprint products or anything. This is just to talk about business and talk about kind of how we've grown to where we're at. We'll do about somewhere between 7 and 8 million this year.
Yep.
And just talking about the journey along the way and the highs and the lows and stuff. And so,
it is capitalism, right? Like we
Sure.
win when you win, right? And so as you guys grow, we've had really great clients over the years, and we've grown with them. They've grown with us, and so anything we can do to put information out there to help our clients grow, to help the industry grow, we win from that. So it's not all out of the goodness of our hearts here, but absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've noticed a lot of questions on amongst a lot of the Facebook groups that we're a part of is like pricing questions and stuff. And so we wanted to put a deck together just to kind of talk about that. We got some. I feel like we have a pretty good idea of how it's. We're looking from the outside in on your business, and then obviously we're looking at our business too and stuff. And so we just want to share our thoughts on pricing and how we've come up with what we've got so far. So.
Yeah, pricing is a real challenge, I think, for a lot of folks, and I'm hoping we can answer a bunch of questions on that. And then if you still have questions even after this live stream, you can always email marketing@firesprint.com. We will try and check marketing@firesprint.com before the end of the live stream. So if you send an email there, we won't say who it was or anything like that. So if you want to be on the down low, or you don't want anybody to know that you're asking a question, or maybe you're a little embarrassed to ask the question, we will keep your identity separate there if you want to use that. So just keep that in mind. We'll try and get in there and utilize that before the end of the live stream today. Otherwise, we'll do our best to catch it on the next episode if you send a question there. So please feel free. I say this to the team all the time. I can't stress this enough. The smartest people in the room ask lots of questions. So if we say something and it's like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand the acronym they used. I don't understand, ask those questions. The smartest people in the room make sure that they understand the whole picture. And so it really is kind of the quiet guy sitting in the back of the room that has no idea what's going on. It's not the person out in front asking a bunch of questions. So please ask. We want to be as helpful as we can.
Yep. And just know that marketing@firesprint.com goes to Gene and I.
Yeah.
And so we're the two that see those emails.
And Andrew, but Andrew's on the team here. He's in the room with us.
Yeah, he's the one running the show here. But anyway, so know that. And then I'm also James at FireSprint and Gene at firesprint.com. Yep. And so if you do want to email us directly,
we're here.
Yeah.
We love those questions.
Absolutely. So just to jump into our slide deck here, and obviously please ask questions in the live chat if you can, or either way, like we said. But
are we okay?
We good?
Yeah. I don't know. You want to pull up the slide? Can they see the slide, Andrew?
Yeah. They've got it.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's not live.
Oh, that's not live. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and make it live. Sorry. We'll figure this out one of these years.
Okay, so we're sharing on your...
No, yours is sharing.
That's not what I see. Oh, is it okay? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, how to build pricing and maximize your profits is what we're going to talk about. Let me go to the next slide here.
Okay, there we go.
So, we... kind of being in the industry for 17 years now, I've kind of come to the conclusion, we've come to the conclusion that there's kind of three ways really to build your pricing. Some of the most common things if you're in the promotional products industry is, just take your supplier pricing and add a profit margin to it, right? Go to firesprint.com or go to, whoever you're working with, and you can use either the letter codes to kind of use that, which there's that. If you're not familiar with that, if you go to our resources page, if you go to our resources page, you'll see a letter code calculator there. But basically, takes the prior pricing, add a profit margin to it, take FireSprint's price, double it, triple it, whatever your market bears, and obviously, your perceived value and stuff adds to that, but we'll get into that. The second way is copying your competitors, right? We've all done it. We've all seen it. We look at some of our biggest competitors in the industry and we say, all right, we're going to, match their pricing, because if they know how to do it, we should be able to figure that out as well. Also, if you're locally there and you're just trying to stay competitive amongst your market, you're in a town of 50,000 people or whatever, and you have 10 sign shops that you're competing against, going across the board, looking at all their pricing, you see that it's pretty even. Copy those guys. Don't like that, but sometimes that's the nature of the game. And then obviously calculating all your costs, building your own pricing. We do have a tool that we'll kind of share with you that Gene spent hours upon hours building. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is using that calculated cost and then adding your perceived value. And your perceived value can be added to any one of these things, but that's really where you maximize your profit and you show that you're worth your salt in the industry and in business. So jumping into the first one, pricing based on your suppliers. This is really common for the promotional products industry, like I said. It's there's a huge network out there, and I'm sure most of you guys are a part of it, but you have the ASI and Sage networks, the Distributor Central networks, and stuff, where they are, they're putting that information out there. We all list our products on there. We try to put, I think we've got 60 or 70 products listed on ASI and Sage. We're working on Distributor Central here in a little while. But, it just makes it really simple for the promotional products distributor to jump into that and run with it. I would say that after seeing a lot of feedback on the promotional products like Facebook groups and stuff, and seeing what people are talking about, the questions that they're asking, I constantly am seeing people talk about credit card fees, shipping fees, accessorial fees and stuff like that get added to POs or that get added to orders and stuff after the PO is sent. And everybody's like, what do I do with this? How do I handle this? They kind of throw their arms up and they're questioning it. It's really simple. You take all your costs and you put them in. And
yeah, that would be our suggestion, is to really try and simplify pricing. I mean, if you look at who the market leaders are in all of these industries, they're doing everything they can. We're doing it, right? We've got free shipping over $49. We're not doing that because the shipping is free. We're doing that to try and make the costs really easy to understand. And so, when one of your customers or one of our clients, a reseller, wants to go out and understand what costs are, the simpler you can make it, the less communication you have to have over price, the less likely somebody is to feel that they've been nickeled and dimed. And I know this is a controversial topic, right?
Yep.
Obviously, there is a case to be made to have a base price, and then you kind of line item out everything, and that's common. People do that. I am not a fan of that. I really am a fan of trying to simplify it, make it as easy as possible, especially in our industry, because, in our business, what we're really trying to do is solve problems for marketing departments. We're trying to solve problems for small business owners. We're trying to solve problems, for busy people who have a lot going on, right?
Yep.
And so, you want to see somebody who's busy, who has like 50 hats they're wearing. Let's find a small business owner out there.
Yeah.
And so you're working with these small business owners, trying to make things very easy for them. One of the things you can do is just total up the price. And so I'm a huge fan of doing that. And then, you can always work backwards from there and add accessorial charges if you feel like you absolutely have to cover, different events and things like that. But I'm a huge fan of really trying to simplify pricing. So,
turnkey
yeah,
pricing.
make it turn. It's just, it's $10 a sign, whatever you need, kind of thing. And we have seen that work time and time again to increase volume. It just makes things really, really simple. So.
Yeah. And you see, Amazon, Walmart, they've all made it so simple to,
reduce friction.
Yeah, reduce friction and just make it simple for these guys for anybody. I mean, to place orders and stuff. And it's just because it's all enclosed. It's hard to explain every little friction point.
Yeah.
So industry suggested retail pricing. What value can you add if somebody's using MSRP from one of the promotional products?
Yeah, and so how do you monetize value or indirect costs? And that's a good, Don Long asked that question. That's a great question. I have no idea. No, really, the value. This is a dumb joke. The value add is, I think, going back to kind of the concept that we have with pricing. You're going to hear us talk about a couple of things a lot throughout all of these live streams. One is specialization. Okay, get really good at something and make everybody know you for that one thing. That is the way that you succeed, I believe, in this industry. Specialize as much as you can. The more you can carve away and the more you can get down to what you do, then you can do those things really, really well. And that allows you to add a ton of value that others can't, right? And so it's when you generalize that you're always trying to figure out how to add value. If you sell 1,000 different products to 1,000 different clients, or customers, figuring out where do I add value for this customer, where do I add value for this customer, where do I add value for this, you can't do it. It's like there's too much. But if we zero in, and let's say you sell promotional products to dentists, I've used that example before, then you can really, the value proposition starts to grow, right? You can really start to understand what they're looking for. You, rather than giving them a catalog of 10,000 products to look through, just show them the squeezy tooths and things like that, right? Just show them the stuff that dentists need. And that added value that you're doing, it's not really a huge cost for you to do that, but to understand your customer. So I suppose with all of my yakking, it really comes down to understanding your customer to provide the most value. The better you can understand them, the better you can do that. And then of course there's, if you're competing against online stores and things like that, there's things that you can do that they can't, face-to-face service, free delivery or local delivery where you're actually hand delivering something rather than just the UPS guy throwing a box on the porch, which they're great, but not very personal.
Showing multiple mock-ups instead of one.
Yes.
If you give how often do you give a mock-up out to your clients and then they turn around and they give you feedback on that one and then you're going back and forth on this one design, versus if you just took a little bit more time and put together 4 mock-ups for them and said,
while you're in the zone doing it.
Yeah, pick A, B, C, D, and which one do you like, or A, B, C, or whatever. It makes it frictionless for your customer and that much easier for them just to stick with you.
Reduce friction.
So one of the ways that we reduce friction for our distributors is we do try to offer our sell sheets, which we're slow at getting them out, but we're trying to build those up as much as we can, where we've got specific products and stuff that we're building sell sheets for, and then we've got our free letter code calculator underneath our resources section on firesprint.com that helps you calculate out your pricing and stuff. And so the way that works is the same as anything, where you try to take all your total costs in that you've got, if you've got your design fee and stuff like that you're doing on your end, include that in your net wholesale cost per unit, and then multiply that out across all your products. But
I'm seeing here, so I want to answer this question real quick. James Duncan says that it seems to me that your regular site pricing is cheaper than ASI pricing, or is it just me? So there's probably 2 reasons for this. Number one, we always want our website to be the lowest price out of anywhere. So if we're going to fail or make a mistake, we want to make a mistake in that direction. So let's say you go and you quote your clients with ASI pricing on the ESP, and then you come back to FireSprint. If it's more money, that's a pain. If it's less money, you win. Great. But more likely what the issue is that ASI pricing forces us to categorize based on quantity. So we have pricing at 10, 25, 50, 100, where our website is actually dynamically pricing every individual unit. And so, the difference between 50 and 100, that price is falling for each unit that you might add in certain cases, whereas we just had to pick a snapshot at 100 and a snapshot at 50. And so we see that oftentimes where, with the ASI pricing, if you want 75 and we only have a price break at 50, you're assuming that price is going to be the 50 price break, where in all reality, if you go to firesprint.com and you type in 75, it's dynamically calculated at 75 units, and so the price will drop from there. So it's,
Yeah.
again, ASI is always kind of worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Or we try to make it that way anyway. That's our goal.
Or
So
we
that
might-
we're never surprised in a bad way.
We might include the accessorial charges or something, like our cut fee or proof charge or something like that.
Yeah.
In the ASI pricing
Yeah,
to try to
and
make
again, trying to just bundle it, make it as simple as we possibly can, as often as we can. So,
So, thanks, James, for using and hey, good name, by the way, for using our sell sheets. And looks like he includes them in his catalog, which that's awesome. That's exactly why we build them and why we put them out there for people to use. Sorry, we're kind of going back and forth between Facebook and YouTube and the questions there and stuff. And so thank you guys for posting those. So yeah, we'll move on to the next one. Copying your competitors. We've all done it. We've all seen it. So this may be the fastest way to charge somebody when you're trying to figure out or start out in business and stuff. You're trying to make a name for yourself. It's very common, even to even with more established companies, to do this with commodity products. For example, we can't, being a trade-only supplier for yard signs, which you can go like almost anywhere and buy yard signs. We have to look at our handful of biggest competitors and just make sure that we're within the market. Banners like that, yard signs are like that, business cards, I'm sure, are like that. Where we know that the industry is at for a double-sided 24 by 18. We know we have to be at $4 a piece for those things.
really careful with this, though.
Yeah.
So there's first of all, your competition. What often I see the issue is that we'll have somebody come to us and say, well, this competitor is less than me on this product, and this competitor is less than me on this product, and this competitor is less than me on this product, and so I feel like all three of these products, I need to beat all three of these competitors.
Yeah.
And you can't do it. Your competitors are smarter than that. They've only got that cherry product on there to try and get you in the door, and then they've got their core product, which is actually making them a margin. Perhaps you'd be more competitive on that. And so you can't take everybody's best deal forward and copy it. But that being said, I do think that anytime we add a product, the first thing we do is check the market, right? You're doing your SWOT analysis where you're checking the strengths of your competitors to see how much are they charging for these products. Is this something that we feel like we can be competitive in? And that, I think, applies a lot more to, and as James says, like the commodity products, right?
Yeah.
Like the yard signs and banners and business cards and just these products that everybody kind of needs. They buy in high volumes, or maybe a lot of people buy a little bit of them, and those kinds of things. If you want to get in that market, you might check and see, well, who are the biggest competitors and what are they charging, and can I afford to even enter into that market? I think those are very initial, early on questions that you're doing. And as you expand and grow and get better and get your footing in a market, you stop copying your competitors and you start focusing on adding value, lowering your costs, and then your competitors start to copy you.
Yeah. And then, there's also jobs where they're probably more realistic for like a small sign shop or a local sign shop where you need to letter somebody's door and they want store hours on there or something, which is I don't know how common of a product that is or how common of a job that is for most of our clients, but I imagine it is.
We did it all the time.
Yeah.
Back when we were back in 2008, 2007.
If you think about that, and you're driving to a job where you're going to do a whole storefront, and that's a $3,000 job, and then you've got $2.50 worth of white vinyl, and you're printing it, plotting it, and cutting it, and weeding and masking it right, in line with everything else, and you're going to pass by this guy's shop on your way there, that might be a $50 job. But if you have to do that one standalone, it could be, a $250 or a $500 job, but you're competing with somebody else who might be in that same bucket, right? They're probably doing it standalone or they're doing it alone. And so it's just, you don't really realize, how consistent somebody is. They might have that shade of green vinyl today, but, they've got 3 yards of it or something. And so they're going to print it and cut it, based off of that wasted material that they were about to throw away anyways.
Yeah, talking about more custom jobs, these things where you have install and things like that, copying your competitors for those kinds of prices is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? Because somebody might just say, yeah, I'll just throw that in, I'll do that. And now you're trying to beat that low price again. So that's why, and that's the general scare anytime you're paying a lot of attention to what your competitors are charging. And so our goal with this whole thing would be to get you away from the things that we're talking about on this slide. It really is not a good long-term business model for you, but it's your starting point, especially when you're starting off, to make sure that what you're going to do is viable, that the market exists, and you can compete in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's also the example of sheet of ACM where one guy charges $200 for it, one guy charges $800 for it, and they're both right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's so common that those really custom products,
Yep.
vary so wildly in price.
So Gene spent hours upon hours upon hours building a wide format pricing calculator that we actually give out for free on firesprint.com. And so this is to kind of help build, understand your costs across the board, understand, everything, and just, building your pricing from scratch. And so, but yeah, anyway, so this is building your costs from scratch I feel like it's part of your secret sauce as a company, right? Understanding how to do that, how to make sure that you're level, because eventually you reach a point to where your competitors aren't bidding everything, back to back to back. You've built trust with your clients, and they're coming to you, they're asking you to do a job, and they just know that you're going to bid them fair across the board, right?
Yeah. I would say your secret sauce is what you're going to charge above and beyond your costs. Understanding your costs, it is probably an ingredient in your secret sauce, understanding like how to calculate your costs. That's pretty, in my opinion, it should be fairly cut and dry. Once you kind of establish how you're going to model establishing your costs, your shop rates and things like that, then it really is about, how much margin do we want to charge on top of this? How are we going to promote these products? And then, can we figure out ways to do things faster, right? And so we need to charge for less time on a product to make it overall, lower cost. Yep. Should we navigate away from this slide and go into that a little bit? So here's the, there's actually technically your slide for there. So I've done like an 8 or 9 part video series on the calculator, and you can go to firesprint.com/tools, and we'll put a link down in the description if you're rewatching this or something like that. But you can go download this calculator, and there's an 8-part video on like setting it up. So I'm not going to kind of go through the entire setup of it. Here it is kind of, when you're using it, once you've got everything kind of established. But I do want to talk about your hourly rate, because that seems to be one of the biggest questions that people see, or people have questions about, is calculating an hourly rate for your shop. And so the reason why you want to calculate an hourly shop rate is it helps you understand what it costs, what your labor costs are, right? And I'll tell you, here at FireSprint, we have hourly rates for different equipment. We get more complex with it. When we have literally $1 million printer or $250,000 cutter, that has a higher hourly rate than somebody grommeting, for example, because we're trying to incorporate the cost of that printer in there. And the calculator does help you with that a little bit. But if you're a small shop, if you're watching this, and you're kind of thinking this through, I would strongly recommend simplifying it as much as you can and getting down to a single hourly rate for now. And you can start breaking that up and playing with it all you like, but for now you need to get to a single hourly rate. And so I have more than one video explaining how to calculate an hourly rate. We also have more than one calculator to do it. This is the one that we'll show you today in terms of using the hourly rate. But essentially, to put it in a nutshell, I think the simplest way that I can put it is you need to figure out what all your monthly expenses are that you would have whether or not you came in and you turned the lights on, right, on a day. So the expenses that you have in a month that if you didn't sell anything, you would still have, okay?
That's our nut.
Yeah, I like to call it our nut, but that's your cell phone bill, right? That's the trash collection, your rent, your lease, the printer payments that you have, those kinds of things that you are going to pay whether or not you open. These are all the responsibilities you have. Now, one of the challenging things is, what about labor? Well, labor you can kind of categorize into 2 categories, but if you have part-time or full-time employees, then and then even yourself as an owner, I assume maybe you'd be an owner watching this, but all that labor needs to, in my opinion, I like to put that labor into a fixed cost, okay? And so if I have a manager, if I've hired a shop manager, right? Mm-hmm. And, I've committed to paying this person $50,000 a year, right? Or let's say $48,000 a year, $4,000 a month. that is in many ways a fixed cost, right? They may clock out and leave if there's no work, but at the end of the day, in order for you to keep good people around, you're going to pay them this rate. And so I like to take basically all of my expenses and divide it out, take them for the year and divide it by 12, and those are your monthly costs. And then we calculate our shop rate on that. Another way to look at that, okay, so I hope that makes sense.
Real quick on that.
Yeah.
When you're talking about labor, we've got 37, right?
Yep.
30. So we've got 37 people. And one of the things that Mark, our CFO, he's our third partner, he always I feel like we've always kind of drilled this in, and as a group and stuff, is we always consider that person at 40 hours, regardless, because we're very seasonal. Right, November, December, January, it'd probably be cheaper for us to close the doors than it would be to stay. In a lot of cases, I mean, we have months or orders that come in that are big spikes and stuff, but for the most part, we lose money those months. And so, but we always try to consider the 40 hours for that person, because we know that, and that's part of our sales pitch when we're hiring somebody, because we know that in April, May, we need them to work 55 hours, right, to help keep up with demand and stuff. Right now, we're coming off of our peak, and a lot of our guys are. They're
still
working
pretty
50,
busy, but
50, 52 hours a week, and it's important when you're considering all your overhead costs that we're considering that full 40 hours, not just what they're.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you do have somebody that you hire just occasionally, an offsite graphic designer or something, you only hire them when you have a job to do, then I would consider that more of an accessorial charge or something else. I wouldn't consider them as part of that's, without, trying not to offend anybody here, having a graphic designer that you pay like a flat rate to design a graphic, and then like if you don't have any work for a month, you don't talk to them for a month, is not that much different than buying a roll of vinyl, right? They're just accessorial charges that occur only when the transaction or the sale happens. That's different than somebody who you've committed to 40 hours a week to. So anyway, another way to look at this is, if you're really confused by it, try this, okay? Go in and look at 6-12 months worth of your expenses and take out all the material, take out all the ink, and take out any like install charges or anything like that would have been specific to a job. So if you hired an installer for a minute just to do one job, or anything like that. So your ink, your material, take those things out of the equation, because you're really only spending money on ink and material when you're selling something, and then take all your other expenses and add those up and figure out a monthly average for all those expenses, okay? And in this case, let's call it $17,683, okay? And so that's the number that we're trying to calculate, we're trying to figure out. This is the number that we have, this is the number that we have to cover in our hourly rate, right? Somehow it needs to be covered, whether or not we sell anything, but that needs to be covered. And now what we're going to do, to put it as simply as possible, you figure out the number of billable hours within that period. So we're talking about a month here, 17,000 some dollars down here. Mm-hmm. And we calculate out how many billable hours we have. Now there's another question that I get, well, how do I figure out how many billable hours you have? Well, it is a little bit of a guess, but what I like to do, and this is like monthly billable hours that you're calculating, the calculator actually wants you to calculate it, just figure it out by day here. But your billable hours would be things that, again, you're only doing if you sell the job, okay? So bookkeeping, not billable. Sweeping the shop, probably not billable. Customer service, generally not billable. Networking, going out, marketing events, things like that, not billable, okay? But you look at it and you say, okay, I've got an installer. Well, an installer is going to have 7 out of 8 billable hours available per day, or maybe 6 out of 8 billable hours per day, right? And that when they're working on a job that you've sold. Your shop.
So we do it off of press time, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we say that we've got, if we're running 2 shifts on the flatbed, the Durst, then we've got 16 hours of production. Or do we say 16 or 14? I think we say 14 because we have lunches and stuff. There's always an hour between lunchtime and service, and, stuff like that. And so that printer's got 14 hours of billable time 5 days a week, or right now we're running 3 shifts 7 days a week. But
and so it's the time that you're going to be able to work on jobs that people have paid you for, right?
Yep.
And so what I like to do is I like to take not a minimum, but like a conservative number of billable hours. So as you're, maybe if you've got a 5-person sign shop or something like that, maybe your manager has 5 or 6 billable hours per day, and the other 3 or 2 billable hour, 2 to 3 hours per day, they're doing more admin tasks. They're, just kind of organizing and scheduling and things like that. Installers, or if you have a printer operator or, fabricators, those guys might have a little higher percent of billable hours. It's never going to be 100%. So if they work 8 hours a day, it's never going to be 8 hours per day. Maximum probably 7 hours per day. You've always got time where you're like discussing the jobs with them. They need breaks, things like that. If you're a business owner and you're watching this, you as a business owner, maybe you only have 1 or 2 billable hours, or in my case, I have 0. I have 0. James and I have 0 billable hours per day because we're not out on the production floor, running jobs or anything like that. And so it's always important to calculate, reasonably how many hours do you expect every day that you're open to sell. And you add those all up, and then you can use the calculator. You can use the tool here to basically what we do is we take, in this case, it's 13 billable hours per day, and we multiply that by 20 working days a month, which is just a fair conservative average, and you get 260 billable hours per month. So in this case, with 260 billable hours per month divided by $17,000 plus per month, we actually get a base rate of $69 an hour. And so that means $69 an hour, that's our cost, right? If we actually can sell 13 billable hours a day, and we're running 20 days a month, then we have a cost. We have to clear $69 per hour to cover our base expenses.
Yep.
Okay, so that means if I sell a job, and this is what I'm trying to get everybody to recognize out there when they're quoting stuff out. If I go and sell a job, let's say I pay my installer $20 an hour and I sell the job at $50 an hour. Well, you might think in the back of your mind, well, I'm making $30 an hour. And, in some cases, if you've already covered your costs, you are making $30 an hour. But if you're still working up to the expected billable hours per day, you're really probably losing $19 an hour at that point, the $50 to $69. And so you need to be very mindful of that cost. I really feel like I'm just going on and on about this.
But this is where, economies of scale come in too, as well, right? Like if you can get into that second shift, or you can get in past the, 8 hours of work that you're considering, that's where profitability really kind of comes. I mean, it's one of the places that profitability comes in.
Yeah, that's why second shifts and things like that tend to be very profitable, because usually you've calculated in covering your monthly expenses into your first shift, and your second shift runs at a more profitable rate. And then, of course, we just add a markup to it, so we've got a nice round $89 per hour is what we figured in this scenario for your billable hours. I hope that makes sense. I'm not seeing a ton of comments come in on that, but if that makes sense to you guys, then that's fantastic. But then you take those billable hours. The next step from there in determining pricing is time. And for us, like, we're constantly time studying things, constantly stopwatching things. And when you're new, what you're doing is you're guessing, and that's okay. And you go out and you do the job, and then you take notes. And, I estimated this was going to take me 4 hours. It took me 6 hours, Make a note so that next time you can do a better job of either trying to figure out how to get it back down to your 4 hours, or, actually charging for the 6 hours it took you. It's really critical that we're charging for the time things take us, right?
Yeah. James said, how would you figure if it's only 2 people in the business and still very small? Our cost isn't very high either, though.
What? Our cost isn't very high either? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm assuming is you are one of the 2 people in the business. And my answer to this is always make sure that your cost is calculated at the replacement rate for you, right?
Yeah.
So if you are particularly with billable hours, right? If you're expected, if you feel like you need to cut vinyl, print, and be installing and doing binding and things like that in the business, those are billable activities, right?
Yeah.
And if you're an owner doing those things, one of the things I see is owner's time doesn't count. You're just paid in the price. No, you can't do that. You need to go in and calculate your billable hours for the replacement value of you. So you're not a free worker. If maybe it's $50,000 a year, maybe it's $100,000 a year to replace what you're doing in terms of the billable side of things. Okay, when you get into admin and accounting and things, that's a whole kind of different story. But you really need to be able to replace yourself. So I would say that most owners, if they don't have a line here, shop manager salary, the owner's salary, and you don't have a line here that's somewhere between, at least the bare minimum $2,500, $3,000 a month up to, $5,000 plus dollars a month to replace like what you're doing kind of day to day, you need to get that in there. Now, I understand you're going to bid jobs under this cost, but what's important is that you understand that in order to sustain your business, in order to get to the point where you can take a vacation, you've got to get yourself in there at a replacement cost. And that's what I've had to do, right? I'm not free. I've had to figure out replacement costs into FireSprint so that I can get paid even though, I'm not able to be out on the shop floor producing stuff anymore. It's not, profit is a whole different element. Net profit at the end of the year, what you're taxed on, that's a different thing. That's a different topic. That's not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is just sustaining a lively business, being able to survive, right? This is just blood pressure that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're probably wearing multiple hats too, right? Mm-hmm. You're the print operator, you're the cutting guy, you're the finisher, you're the installer. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you are considering each one of those things as individual people.
Yeah.
Which is challenging, but it's better to know it than not know it.
Yeah. So. And so I'm not saying that use this and then run your business dry. I had to work for 10 years barely taking a paycheck out of FireSprint, but when we calculated out, okay, when we scale this up, when we start to sell enough of this stuff, am I going to be able to take a salary, not just a profit draw, but a salary for showing up to work 50, 60 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that after we start selling $2-3 million in sales, I'm going to be able to do that. And we hit that 10, 12 years in, and we were able to start taking a real paycheck, and it wasn't just whatever was left at the end of the month. So you have to plan for that. You may not be able to, I get it, I empathize with it. You may not be able to do that today, but you need to plan for being able to do that. I think that's a critical step in the longevity of a business. Otherwise, it's just one step above a hobby.
And it's really fun when you can either hire, so there's two ways to obviously, you get better at it, right? There's the, you're the chief operating officer, or the CFO, or the CEO, or the head sales guy, or whatever, and you get better at it to a point to where you're growing. Because obviously, the salesperson for a company that does $100,000 in business versus a sales manager that does, for a company that does $20 million in revenue, those are two totally different people. But watching yourself grow as you do that and realizing, I guess it's kind of where I'm trying to go with this, and then. What's really cool is when you can hire somebody to replace that one position. I think about our content and stuff used to be Gene and I. Now Andrew's stepping in to do that, right? Customer service used to be, I would lead the customer service team, and we're constantly all the little things that we were battling, and then we hired Lisa to step in, and our customer service team has grown faster than I would have ever thought. They've gotten better than I would have ever thought, and so. When you hire somebody to come in and fill that position, you're accounting for it.
It is very much like playing a game and winning, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're able to replace yourself or replace one of the things that you do all the time, you hire somebody, they're doing a great job at it, you've picked well, you've really hired a great person, they're enjoying themselves, you're enjoying yourself, finally you can take a vacation. I mean, that's the game we're playing, and those are the steps to winning it for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind, there's 8 videos on our YouTube channel. I think they're linked to on the wide format calculator. But they do a great job of, I think Gene's going to pull them up and show you guys real quick. But those 8 videos, I think if you watch all of them, it's about 40 minutes or so to go through them. But he kind of deep dives into each individual page and stuff. And obviously, if there's questions on anything, don't be afraid to comment on the videos. We do see, we really try hard to make sure that we see all the comments across all of our videos. We get the notifications for them. The 3 of us do in this room. So
we want to help.
Yep. Yeah. We want to get better.
If you're willing to listen to us. Listen to us talk.
Yeah. Okay. So Landon C. Decal, thanks for providing all this. Yeah, absolutely. This is what we love to do, this kind of stuff. We love to help businesses grow. Obviously, it's a win-win for us, right? Not to like get sales pitchy, but if you're doing well, we're doing well and stuff.
We
And so
enjoy this. This is in all reality though, this is why we wanted to be on the trade side, because it's like it feels so much more for us. It feels so much more collaborative, right? Like
Yeah.
we have all this incentive to be collaborative with you guys, with other printers, with other people in the industry versus competitive. I wouldn't. I don't know. I guess I'm plenty competitive, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy collaborating a lot more than competing. And so I think that, and I think Mark, the other owner, and James, we all kind of feel the same way about that.
Yeah.
So it's
And
just awesome.
And like Gene said a
Yeah.
minute ago, it's a game, right? If you can get and I'll tell a quick story real quick. I walked into, my son had a clinic that he went to. This was 6 months ago or something, but it was for soccer. So I walked in, and it was actually some people that I went to high school with that started this, and I was so fascinated because they had yard signs, they had T-shirts, and they had I think like coffee mugs or something. They were like knockoff Yeti tumblers. But anyways, I started asking her. I said, "Well, where'd you get your yard signs from?" And she says, "Well, I ordered them from Vistaprint." And I said, "Well, where'd you get your Yeti tumblers from?" "Well, I ordered them from Foreign Print." And then I said, "Well, where'd you get your T-shirts from?" She said, "Well, I work with the T-shirt company, which is actually a client of ours, down the street from them." And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." Like, this, and I didn't really say anything because I don't like to step on anybody's toes, or we really try to like just look at the big picture with this kind of
Could
stuff.
have gotten all that stuff locally.
Yeah, they could have bought it all from that place that they bought the T-shirts from, and they love that company, right? They ranted and raved about how they loved working with them and stuff. And so, really, like, I think our focus and one of our big marketing like initiatives and pushes is how do we make our clients better salespeople, right? How do we make them the best salesperson out there? And how do we get them to promote as many of the products across the board? Because obviously, if you're getting more orders, we're seeing more orders, and we're seeing you grow, and which is fun just in itself.
So, yeah, okay. This is one that I want to talk about. I think. So if you haven't seen this, you must pick two. Speed, cost, and quality. I see this all the time.
You have to pick two.
You have to pick two. So will you explain this? What does this mean? If
So-
somebody hasn't seen this before, what's the concept? Why is
So
it here?
The concept is that you can never get all three at once, right? And there's a lot of little diagrams that I saw when I was putting this together that, they had like a little impossible symbol in the middle, which I don't think it is impossible to give them, speed, quality, and cost at once, but we'll get into that here in a second. But anyway, so like if it's done quickly, right, then your costs are going to be high, your quality is going to be low, right? Because you're speeding through the job, and so that's the perception that leaves. If you want high quality, your costs are going to be good, but it's going to take a long time, right? It's everybody's seen the picture of the horse. This is the $10 designer. This is the $100 designer. This is the $1,000 designer, right? Where you see like the different levels of quality there, and then obviously the cost. If it's done too quickly, you can't get your cost low. If it's done too high quality, you can't get your cost low. And so there's the notion out there that you have to pick two in business to.
And I would say this makes sense on the surface, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because generally being done faster at higher quality is more expensive to do, right?
Yep.
And if you want to lower costs, you've got to chip away at being able to just pump it out quickly, so that might lower quality, or your low cost and high quality does, like, it's hard to do that fast.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's a lot of people who live by this. I think there's probably 10,000 sign shops and print shops in the U.S. with this, like, on the door as you walk in, pick your two as a client walks in. But I disagree with this a little bit.
Well, we have the secret sauce that for $349 a week for the next 72 years, we will give the secret sauce to you that tells you how to. No, I'm just kidding.
How to do all three. Well,
kidding.
here it is. This is how you do all three. You focus, right?
Yep.
You focus. You bring down what you're doing. You specialize. You get really good at something. If you think about companies, I'm going to throw something out here. You might think it's controversial here, but let's think about like Chipotle or McDonald's, or I like restaurants because we all can kind of understand. We all eat. I would say Chipotle has done this, right? You get really high value. It's low cost for as much protein and the nutritional value of what you're getting. It's very high quality, and it's fast. It's right in front of you, right? They're just chopping it up. They're doing it. But why are they able to do that? Well, they're not. You can't go to Chipotle and order a cheeseburger. You can't go order a filet ready to go for you. You don't get silverware, right? They have really locked down what they offer. If you really look at their menu and the ingredients they have, it's very few. You go into a world-class kitchen, they might have just tons and tons of ingredients available for making all these different dishes. Or let's not talk about Cheesecake Factory, right? And their like Bible of a menu they have and all these options. Chipotle has nailed this. And it's because what they've actually eliminated is something that's unspoken, and that's just all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. They've really focused on a very specific client, and they've focused on offering them a very specific product. And so when you do that, I think we've done this with yard signs, right? We're very fast, next day production.
Trying to be.
Yeah. Our cost is very competitive on them. And I think our quality is really good, and we're continuously trying to improve that. So don't be too hard on us here, but I think we can do this by specializing and focusing on a certain product. And then for us, it's a very specific group of customers, right? We only sell to the trade. And so that's not a pitch. I'm just telling you, we have been able to grow because we've eliminated a lot. We really understand who we sell to. So this is, maybe you're a local shop in a small town and you're the only print shop or only sign shop in a small town. Well, don't try and get into e-commerce, right? Don't take that. Your competitive advantage is your location.
You're there.
Right there. You're there with those people. You know these owners. They trust you. You're talking to the local businesses, right?
Yeah. Which that's a whole topic on itself, whether or not to be in e-commerce and whether or not that's worth it.
Yeah, we probably do a live stream on that too. But I'm just, I see these and it's like, oh, there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity here to sell to all these different categories that you don't understand. Well, that's when the you must pick two triangle, really comes in, because you're not specializing in anything. You're not getting really, really good at a handful of things. And so that's, in a nutshell, you beat this by specializing. I can't stress that enough. And if you don't like that idea, if you disagree, this probably isn't the live stream for you, because we are going to pound that home over and over again. Our most successful clients are really, really good at a handful of things. The people who are buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff from us, you go and figure out who they are darn good at like three things. Right?
Yeah.
And they're selling the heck out of it. And one of those things might be e-commerce, or one of those things, marketing to a specific group of people, or, but they figure that out. And
do you think
it doesn't happen overnight?
Do you think that like heavily going in on quality is part of that focus, like that laser focus? Like, do you think that you could be laser focused on saying, I'm going to have the best quality and I'm going to make it so easy to work with me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that does demand higher cost. That plays into the triangle a little bit, but in a good way, right? And so I'm thinking of a company here in eastern Nebraska that does vehicle wraps.
Yeah.
And we've talked to the ownership and the leaders there, and they're talking about, sometimes somebody gets a door ding on a van, right? And they've got contractor vans like a plumber, just think of a plumber, and they've got their whole van wrapped and they get a door ding. One of the services they offer is they will rewrap just that door matched to the fading of the rest of the van, right? You remember that conversation we had? I don't want to name them, but I sat back and thought, how many people would say that that's not even possible? We just got to rewrap the whole van.
Yeah.
What the thing is that they charge a heck of a lot for it. It might be cheaper for somebody else to rewrap the whole van.
Yeah.
The problem is your van's pulled out of commission for a day or two while you're getting it wrapped. It's somebody to drop it off, things like that. They can do the door in less than a day. They can do the door maybe over a lunch hour. They can do the door mobile. They can go to, the plumber's in fixing something, and then they're going to go and fix the door while it's on the street, right? I'm not suggesting you do this, but that level of quality that they've added, and it really...
and service.
Yeah, and service that they're adding to it. When they charge an extra $1 for a yard sign because the client that they're working with, wants that brand consistency, wants to make sure that things are just handled, nobody balks at it.
Yeah.
They demand the highest yard sign, the highest printing prices in the area, because the businesses that work with them just know that they're going to handle it. They're going to take care of it. It's going to be easy, right?
And that is called perceived.
Oh, that's perceived value.
Perceived value.
Yeah. Yeah, so they really increasing that value to the clients. That's a story that I just admire the heck out of those guys. But we've got 10 minutes left.
Yeah. And there's another quick one that, it's another sign shop kind of in the area and stuff. And they, their focus is I'm going to make sure that whoever I'm working with just absolutely loves us. Right. And it really opens it up, and it allows them to, be that service across the board for their clients.
I love Don Long's comments
Don.
here. He's right. Make the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
And that's like, you can't, that's it. Make the main thing the main thing. Like it's so I don't know if this was actually something Warren Buffett said or not, but I've heard this story that Buffett, we love Warren Buffett. He lives right over there.
Like 4 miles that way.
Yeah, it's a little further away. We're in an industrial park here at Fire Sprint. But anyway, he said he had an exercise, and I talked to you about this, I think. Write down 25 things that are important to you in your business, right? Write down 25 things that are important to you in your business, and then rank them in order from most important to least important out of these 25. So these are the 25 things you want to accomplish in the next year, let's say, for example. Ready? Got that done? Okay. Yep. Cross off the bottom 20, maybe the bottom 22. Those need to go on your do not work on list. Okay. Yep. In fact, those aren't even work on later. They need to go to the list of don't even touch these things, because those bottom 20, 22 things are the distractions that are keeping you from, as Don said, keeping the main thing the main thing. Right. Yep. So your top 1, 2, 3 things are really what you need to focus on. It's not Netflix that's going to drive you in the wrong direction in your business. It's not being lazy that's going to drive you in the wrong direction. As an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs are not lazy by nature. It is the bottom, the other 20 things that you're like, well, I kind of want to do that, and we're going to get to those someday. Yeah. Those are the things that are distracting you from doing what's really important.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the death of my day a lot of times.
Me too. Yeah. Me too. Every time it's like, oh, this is cool. Let me check this out. And it's like, nah, I got to come back. I can't tell you how many businesses that I've been thinking about that I shut down. It's because I need to just focus on Fire Sprint.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Oh. So talking about profitability, and it's just a simple 3-step process. That's not that hard to do. You have to lower your costs, you have to increase your value, and you have to maximize your profits. That's it. That's all you got to do. No, I'm just kidding.
That's it. It is it. It is it. But hopefully some of the content in our slide deck here has helped you. We can go into anything in a lot more detail. Obviously, we talked about an hour through all of these things. So we just don't shut up. But lowering your costs. Let's talk about these things real quick. How do you lower your costs? I mean, what does that look like? Like, the obvious thing is to attack your vendors. Like if you're buying a laminate core or something like that, you just go right into them and say, hey, we need to save 10 cents
specifically laminate core and
square foot.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. It's not just vendors. I mean, like, you can attack your vendors all day long and stuff, and eventually you might save a few percentage points. But most people are buying a sheet of Coro between X and X and so, or a sheet of ACM between X and X and so. It's like that's there. But the big thing is lower your costs by reducing waste. Yeah. If you track if you're doing the same repetitive step over and over and over again, and this is something that we've pushed on really hard in the past, and we're starting to push on even more now.
Get leaner.
Yeah, get leaner and figure out what's taking up so much time. Is it because you're not positioned correctly? Is it because you don't have the right equipment?
Yeah. So make stuff faster, right? And I know that's easy, to just say, but we're always looking, and the way you make stuff faster is you do the same thing over and over again. You specialize. You start to understand what your product niche is, what you're going to produce in-house, and make that stuff faster, and really focus on that, because then when you have that hourly shop rate, you can output more in an hour. You can drive that cost down in that way.
Waste in sales is if you're chasing every single job out there and you're trying to just get, which is hard when you're first starting out, or you're a small company, you're trying to do anything and everything for everybody, and so it's challenging to do that. But one of the things that can really bog down, like my day being in sales and marketing, is, if you get a client that sends you a spreadsheet with 50 lines of all the different products and stuff that they need for this big store rollout or something, that could take hours to put together, right?
Yeah.
Bidding the signage for a hotel, right, could take hours to put that kind of stuff together.
Yeah.
And
So it's way easier to just say, it looks like about $400. Throw it out.
yeah. So you could do that,
Don't
or
do that.
if that's your niche, then do it. Jump into that, lay into that. That's your service, right? Be the guy that these contractors call for you that. Or, if your niche is the $500 order, the $200 order or something, if your niche is e-commerce, lay into that. Figure out what you want to focus on as a company and make that your core.
Increase your value. We talked about that, like what this wrap company does, adding all of these extra steps just to bring peace to solve. We talked about this a lot last week. I mean, we're in the business of solving problems for other businesses, right? I mean, that's when you kind of take that mindset on, it really helps you find those opportunities to increase your value.
Yeah.
And so then people stop nickel and diming you. It's if you approach it and say, well, I'm selling a commodity, I'm selling, bananas. And we just think about it. Well, who's got the cheapest bananas? Well, that you don't know. We're going to bake a pie with these, right? And we're really going to put this whole thing together. But adding those services, even services that you charge for, we're not talking about like giving all this stuff away for free, right? Like when we talked about the wrap company color matching a door. I mean, I probably charged $300 to do that, but nobody else offers that, and so. They handle it, they deal with it, they make sure that they've solved that problem. So it really is, the more problems you can solve and the greater the scale of the problems that you can solve for people, the higher your value is, right? I mean,
yeah, and that's one of the things. When we were first starting out, we didn't really know how to like run our screen equipment and stuff, but we had a sales guy that would come in here every day. And not every day, but once a week he would stop by. His shop wasn't too far from us, and so we were kind of like on his weekly, path to come in. But he would walk. One of the coolest things that he would do, and probably one of the biggest reasons why we were able to solve a lot of problems like pretty quickly, was he would just walk through our shop with us, and he would watch us, burn screens, clean screens, watch us coat screens. He would look at our material. He would hear out our complaints about corrugated plastic and stuff, and then he would take that back to Don Long and have to but just little things like that where he was there. He wasn't always the cheapest across the board for everything, but we knew that he was going to help us solve the problem, right? If something was going to go wrong, like even like when it came down to it,
very solutions driven.
Their company sold flatbed printers, and when we were looking like at trying to buy a flatbed printer, it was like we knew that he was going to be there. He was going to walk in the door, and he would have to look us in the face if this thing failed. Which, I mean, granted, we like had all sorts of issues and stuff with it, but he was there though the entire time.
Never lost trust.
Yeah, and so he specialized in that, like that added value for his company, which brought in extra profit.
Well, he taught us how to clean screens. Like, it wasn't a matter of just selling us the chemicals, but he came in and taught us how to do it.
Yeah.
And so when we didn't know how to do it, he showed us. He actually cleaned one of the first screens we'd ever cleaned. He did it.
Yeah.
And that, level of value that he added, it built a lifelong relationship.
Yeah. And imagine if you owned, or if you were working with, a chain of grocery stores or a chain of gas stations or something, or even a manufacturing plant, if you took some time to go in with your client
and see
walk in and just see what they're doing, see their processes and stuff, that added value is just, it's so much more. So, but
cool.
So
That's
and then step 3, maximize your profits. That's all just a byproduct of this. Easy, simple 1, 2, 3. So we are coming up on. We got a couple minutes left. Yeah. If anybody's got any additional questions and stuff. Looks like we did have.
I don't know if Martin is on here, but he was asking about the shop rate, and I hope I clarified that. If not, I'm happy to write something out, or also too, one of those things, you send an email to marketing@firesprint.com. If any of you guys want to have a small group chat or a one-on-one chat where it's back and forth, we'll do a Zoom call or something like that. James and I will jump on something like that to help answer questions. We're happy to do that. A little more interactive, and we can do that in private, and again, no cost or anything like that, in private, or even record it, and if it can help other people too.
A lot of our ideas for content and like this wide format calculator, what stemmed you to build this.
Yeah, it's just I just see the question pop up over and over again. How do I price this stuff out? How do I price this stuff out? And so it really, it's like, well, people need to understand their costs, and so, I built it with that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
which is a cool project. A lot of people. I think a lot of people are getting. It's been getting a lot of traction.
I think we've had over 2,000 downloads.
Yeah, which is awesome. So
yeah, cool.
But well, thank you guys all for joining us, and we'll be back in Halloween for
2 weeks
for a spooky fire hour.
We're not that scary.
No. We'll be talking about production, kind of diving into our kind of production processes and stuff. But we're still working through kind of what we'll talk about. But if you guys have
Measuring
anything,
KPIs, things like that.
Yeah. So and that's something big that we've got, kind of stewing in our shop right now. Our operations manager is really kind of working through that. And so as a team, we've been talking a lot about it. So I just feel like it'd be good to share our progress so far. And, obviously we learn from you guys as well. So, but thank you all for joining, and it was great chatting with you.
Thank you.